Okay, so I've got some data here. I'm using Excel 2013, but this works the same on all the others, whether you're using Excel on a Mac or Windows. Basically, I've got some data here. I want to group it together and subtotal things based on their date. And you can see I've got various dates here, fictitious figures. So I've got some dates, some items here, fictitious computers that have been sold, and the amount that they were sold for. And what I want to do is I want to have a look at the subtotal. I want to group together the actual item, but I also want to do the date as well, and then get a subtotal which will tell me how many were sold on a given date or by an item. So the way I'm going to do this is, first of all, I need to sort this. So if you don't know about sorting, then go and check out my tutorial on sorting, which I've got the link below if you're looking on YouTube, or you can go to my website jargonfreehelp.com and look in Excel and you'll find it there. So one of the things that's going to happen is every time the date changes, it's going to put in an extra line here with the total. Now the total can also be an average, the highest and lowest, and there's some other functions in there as well. But you'll see these aren't in order and necessarily grouped together. So the first thing I need to do is sort them. So I'm just going to go to my data tab here. And if you're using it on an older version or on a Mac, such as Excel 2003 on Windows, you'd need to go into the data menu and choose sort from there, or sort using the toolbar. So I'm just going to sort by just clicking on this oldest to newest, which puts the oldest date at the top, and you can see they're all kind of together now. Now, if you're using one of the other versions, you need to go into data and choose subtotals, just like on this version of Excel for the Mac. Anyway, back to Excel 2013, and what I'm now going to do is click on this button over here on my ribbon, my data ribbon. So I'm going to click on subtotal, and this dialog box is the same regardless of which version of Excel you're using. So the ribbons and that might all change, but these don't. So it says here, at each change in date, so every time the date changes, it's going to use the sum function. So I could have made it so that every time the item changes, but I should sort by that first, or the amount. Okay, so let's just take a look at this. So what it's going to do, it's going to add the subtitle to the amount column. Okay, if I had more than one column with some numbers in there, I could total those up as well, just by simply ticking on it, but I'm going to untick because you would be able to sum that up. This doesn't really apply so much because this is the first time we're putting in the subtotal. But you'll see it says replace current subtotals. So if you had subtotals in there, if you already run this once, it would replace them. And you can page break between groups, which means that if you then needed to print it out, it would print it out per page. And the summary below data is going to be putting in the grand total. So let me click on OK, and you can see what it does. And you can immediately see there's the date, there's the total for that date, 2,400. This one's only got one, but you can see here it's nicely grouped them all together. And what you'll see here on the left hand side at the top is what they call the levels. So you can see here I can actually collapse these down, this little minus sign. You'll see it hides rows so that I can just see just the totals, which could be good if you just want to print it off or you just want a summary. Clicking on the plus expands it. But what if you wanted to hide all of them? Well, clicking on number 1 just shows you the grand total, so it's collapsed it all down, and you can easily just click on this plus to get it all back. Let me click on that again. Level 2 shows you the totals for each item and the grand total, and 3 expands to show it all. So anytime you've collapsed it down, you can actually just expand and contract it back again. Okay, so the thing you need to do is make sure that when you did do this, that you had selected at least one cell in here as well. So what if I want to get rid of the subtotals? I go to subtotal. Right here it says remove all. So I'm going to do that. Okay, but there's more to this. So what I'm going to do is once again go to subtotal. Don't forget other versions of Excel, such as 2003, or on the Mac you need to go into data and subtotals. So click on subtotal. This time I am going to get it to work out an average for me. So I just choose average from there. I've got the amount ticked. I'm going to click on OK. But it doesn't end there, Because if I click on subtotal again, now what I'm going to do is add the sum. So I could do count, the maximum gives me the highest, the minimum gives me the lowest, and I could keep going. So I'm now going to sum up the amount. If I leave replace current subtotals on there, it'll replace that average, but look what happens when I remove it. I'm unticking that, click on OK, and now get the total and the average. Okay, so the last one that you put in there appears at the top. So if I wanted to find the highest value, let's just take a look at that, and you'll see, if I click on OK, that one appears at the top. So you need to think about it, which order that you want it in and which order you're going to do it when you do it. So if you want the average to appear at the bottom, you do that first, then the total, then the max. And if I want, you can see actually over here, there's a lot more levels. So go back to the subtotal, to go back to what I had before, click on remove all. So if I wanted to do it just very quickly by item here, first thing I need to do is sort it, which I'm just going to quickly do. There we go. And you can see it's got the iPair, iPair Pro, all fictitious. So I'm just going to click here on subtotal. Now for every change in item, I'm just going to sum it up. There's the replace current subtotals is on there, not that it matters on this one. And now you can see it's totaled up each one of those. So that's how you can use subtotals in Excel.